Welcome to part 5. Here we're going to cover building a window frame. We're going to cover the measuring and cutting precisely, the pre-assembly, and the easy installation. The casing is made by Windsor 1, and the link to their website is in the description. Anyway, let's get to building. All right, so we're going to measure from here to here, and then we have 56 and 7/16. And this number is going to be for my sides. Obviously, we're going to add our reveal and the thickness of the jambs. All right, we're going to measure inside to inside again, and we have 33 and 9/16. I'm going to measure the top two and always go with the largest number as long as both top and bottom are even. And you can also make some marks for your reveal and measure to that. It doesn't matter as long as you're consistent so you make less mistakes. So we have 3.5 pretty much all over, give or take 1/8. So we don't actually have to rip them, but I'm still gonna show you some systems that you can use to say, if you had 3 inches here and then 3.5 up there, I'm gonna show you some easy ways to rip those consistently and safely. So really important, when I cut anything window related and I need 2 perfect sides, I'm just gonna lay them on top of each other. And again, I'm gonna keep my mark inside the cut and cut. So these are the top and the bottom. So we didn't have to rip the jambs this time, but say they are out of whack. Say it goes from 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch. Okay, I would recommend the track saw. That's probably your best bet. But if you don't have a track saw, you need a sled. This sled is basically just a straight piece of board underneath, and this little stop you can offset for that angle, whatever angle this is. So I generally just set this on top of the board and line it up on the edges here, and then screw the stop to this. It's very important that it's got to be the full length of the board. So let's see it in action. I left the line a little over so you guys could see it, but as you can see it's the perfect angle that I needed. Our frame's cut, now we're just gonna pre-assemble them. Okay, so our jamb is completely pre-assembled, so we're gonna start taking the measurements for the casing. But if there's already jambs and you're just replacing the casing, just remember you only need 2 numbers. You need a number for the top and bottom and for the sides. So don't be taking individual measurements for each one, because then the casing's not gonna fit. So say you have 57.25 here and then 57.5 here, you go with 57 3/8. You split that difference, but your legs must be the same size. Same goes for top and bottom. All right, so now we're measuring bottom and top, and we got 35 and 9/16. So that's a 1/16 over 1/2 inch. So we're gonna add 1/2 inch to that for the reveal on both sides. So that's gonna be 36 and 1/16. Now for the sides, we have 57 flat. Again, we're adding 1/4 inch on top and bottom. So we're gonna add 1/2 inch, so that's 57.5. To recap, we're gonna cut one of the miters first. Always remember to keep your base clean, so there's nothing that's gonna throw the angle off, and cut really slow, okay? So we're gonna cut right side first. Again, we're using a straight end as a guide and just having the little ear touch the short point of the miter. Then we're gonna stretch it out, and our number was 57.5. So we're gonna mark that inside of the cut. And again, we're gonna line up our mark with our zero clearance and cut. There you go. All right, so I got one of the pieces cut, and then I cut the miter on the other one like we would. So now I'm gonna line up the piece that's already cut, partner it up, make sure they line up nice right there. Come back here and make a mark inside of the cut again. Now, if I had more pieces like this to cut, I would just set a stop on the miter saw, so I can just cut a miter, put that miter on the stop, and then just keep cutting without measuring every single time. But this is just a window, so this is how I would do it. It's key that these 2 pieces are identical. Again, we're gonna line it up in the zero clearance and cut. Okay, so both are cut, and as you can see, they line up perfectly there. and line up perfectly here. So now that we got our sides, we're going to repeat the process for the top and the bottom. Okay, now we have all our pieces cut. The legs are identical. Top and bottom are also identical. So now we can start pre-assembly. Okay, so we're going to pre-assemble a little differently now. We're going to use the blocks that are screwed on. You can also clamp them on, and a clamp right here. Alrighty, so now we're just gonna let it dry. So we have 1, 2, and then 3 sides pre-assembled. Now for this last one, it lines up pretty good, but that's not always the case. Sometimes one of the legs is gonna be a little twisted, right? So it's gonna throw the miter off. So what you would wanna do is clamp it per usual, but say you have a bigger gap at the bottom that just won't close up. I would use ratchet straps here, and just tighten it that way to bring this in to fight the twist on the millwork. Or you can use a large clamp, whatever you have at your disposal. So yeah, this one looks pretty good though. So we're gonna clamp it up, and then I'll show you the next step. All right, so took the clamps off. All the miters look as tight as they can be. So now let's attach it to the jambs. Okay, so we got the casing mounted onto the jambs. Reveals are nice, so we're gonna start shooting it into place. Now what's gonna happen is we don't want to shoot the casing into the jamb this way, because we are nailing with a tapered going along the grain. So all the nails have a little taper to them, similar to this. So when you nail straight, like I just showed you, what's gonna happen is, especially on these thinner pieces, it's gonna split the wood because the taper is going in along the grain. We wanna go against the grain this way. So that's why we're gonna shoot sideways, like this. Again, not like this, just like this. In some of these profiles, it might be a little difficult to not nail it this way and nail it this way instead. But if that's the case, just even a little angle is really gonna help out a lot. So we have our window frame plus the casing pre-assembled and ready to install. But obviously we gotta sit it on something flat, and it's not gonna sit low to the sill. So generally we would shim this up with cedar shims, but this time around I'm gonna take a little scrap of the jamb and I'm gonna set it to the reveal and then set the laser right underneath that. And I'll show you the next step. All right, so now we're just gonna drive the screws down to the laser line. If you don't have a laser, you can just set one of the screws and use a level. So let's get them in. There you go. Alrighty, now we're gonna do the sides. Piece of scrap and set it to my reveal, and screw right to the back of it. Right there is pretty good. So frame is in. Now we just have to start obviously sucking all these jambs in, putting some screws in here, and obviously nailing the casing to the wall. So first I'm going to throw screws on the top side if it's a single hung door like this one, and I'm going to show you why real quick. So it's screwed on the top because sometimes at the tops we're not going to have access to clamp it, because here it's tight, and then there's a slight bow in the window causing us to have a gap. So what we're going to do is just clamp it down here to close up the gap and throw a screw in here. So now we're going to screw it. And on this other side as well. So last step would just be to nail the perimeter to the framing, but I don't have to show you that. But yeah, we have all the casing in, and yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed. Next set of videos is going to be on baseboard, so hope to see you there. Take care.